How we doing, class? Are we having any fun yet? As we move on to our last three modules, all three modules tend to be called marketing strategy. These were all articles that I kind of wanted to get into the semester, and I needed a title for them, so I'm calling them all marketing strategy. This article here, I don't know who this Laddick guy is, but hopefully you got a nugget or two out of it. This used to be the last article of the semester. And a few years ago, I actually called this class the Co-Creation of Value class. And we ended here. I don't think it's appropriate for us to end here anymore. There's just too much good stuff out there. We keep evolving with this class. But heck, I wrote this article because of this class, so I wanted to keep it in. So I figured we could start off the 3 weeks of marketing strategy with this particular article. Hope you liked it. Hope I didn't put you to sleep. Can you give some examples of the organization structure being more powerful than the drive to serve customers? Well, to make a long story short, the organization structure impacts how the organization behaves. I mean, if we were to take this all the way back to our first class and we talk about market orientation, we talked about functional silos, there are certain companies that have less silos. There is an easier structure for people to hang out and organize with. I think a perfect example, one of the books I'm reading right now is called Creativity Inc. It's by the founder of Pixar, and there is no silos in this company. The org structure is very, very, very flat and very flexible. There is lots of chatting and communication. The organization structure at Pixar makes Pixar Pixar. If customers of the past and present sense that the company's not operating with the best interest of the customer, I would think that the market share of that company would decrease. It surely could decrease unless we're in some kind of a monopolistic kind of scenario, and or we're in a forced loyalty scenario, like having to fly out of Newark and pretty much having to fly Continental or United because you're kind of forced into it. So it's not always the case, but I kind of agree with this here. Okay. If 50% of a company's innovation should come from customer input and designs, what areas are good for the other half to come from? Well, this is kind of a target. As a matter of fact, and I'll get to another Procter & Gamble example. Procter & Gamble, when one of their famous CEOs came in and knew he needed growth, Procter & Gamble was the internal innovation firm. They were very innovative, but they did everything internally. And he literally challenged the company to get 50% of their innovations outside the company, to the point where the Swiffer and Mr. Clean's Magic Eraser were innovations. They both billion-dollar companies, billion-dollar brands that came from outside the R&D of Procter & Gamble. They bought them from research scientists. Well, hopefully you can get 50% of your innovation from outside the firm. Well, get 50% of your information from inside your firm. There you go. That's what Procter & Gamble's doing. Do CMOs ever focus on previous strategies and not just the future? They may borrow strategies that they used in the past for the future, but this is not about being in the present. This is not about playing with the past. The CMO's job is to focus on the future. Okay, what are the 4 P's of marketing? No problem here. Also known as the marketing mix. The 4 P's are price, product, promotion, and place. Every marketing strategy, everything, is a function of one or more of these 4 P's. Premium price, limited distribution, promo not on TV but in very high-end magazines, superior product quality. So it's the mix, of the 4 Ps that give you a particular strategy. There are many complex factors that result in the short tenure of CMOs. But what is the main reason why CMOs have the shortest tenure among C-suite? Well, I can give you a couple. We did a case on hunks, motorcycles, yes? And Marty's actually a pretty good stereotype for a lot of CMOs. They have a track record, they've had some success, they come in, and it's either going to work or not work. And usually what happens is sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. CMOs are, they don't have a great reputation for being strategic, unfortunately. So that's one part of it. I think the other part of it is, I think CMOs get more of the Monday morning quarterback factor than any of the other C-suites. The COO, the CFO, the CAO, the CIO tend to be more specialized to the point where no one else really can do the accounting or the finance or the IT or the operations. That's a harder call. But the CMO, they all think that the problem is the advertising sucks. And then it's a politics game. I personally believe that the CMOs, are more like Marty, and that's the bigger problem. Hold on one second. Why does user-generated challenge Web 2.0? I don't know. To me, Web 2.0 is user-generated. I'd like to see where that quote kind of came from. How does a company whose product and service that does not vary, Coca-Cola for example, create value and experience for its customers? First of all, Coca-Cola does vary. There are different types of Coca-Cola, and diet types of Coca-Cola are more exciting or selling better now than traditional Coca-Cola. But even the traditional Coca-Cola, I love to buy it in the glass bottle, and I love it for it to be sugarcane Coca-Cola. But then 2 weeks ago, I was on campus at Seton Hall, which is now Coca-Cola campus, not Pepsi like it was last year. And there is a Coca-Cola free product, which is half sugarcane and half stevia, with half the calories of a traditional Coca-Cola for the same size. And it tastes really good. The other thing is, have you guys been into a Smash Burger or one of these higher end, like a Chipotle kind of a place, higher end fast food, where there's a Coca-Cola machine and there's only one hole and you could choose all the Coca-Cola products? I mean, like 15 different cola types with vanilla, not vanilla, with lime, with diet, and my kids go crazy there. For them to see 8 different types of Fanta, grape Fanta, cherry Fanta, this Fanta, diet Fanta, nuts. Absolutely love it. The machine and the delivery create value for its customers in and of itself. Is community-based marketing a new kind of mass marketing technique? No. These are polar opposites. Mass marketing is top-down. Community-based is bottom-up. These are complete polar opposites. Is it an effective way to test consumer tastes? Yes, it is. And quickly bring high-demand products to market? No, it is not. It is not quick. User-generated, bottom-up is not quick. Aside from Threadless, are there other companies that use this method? Well, the next article that we read gave us all kinds of companies that use this method, such as Clorox and Ford. Yes, there are other companies that do this kind of thing. All right, let's go to our next article here. Pretty cool article. I actually know Professor Weinberg personally from my time up in Boston. In the Clorox Connect example, where participants are provided incentives from gaming examples, and those who post answers, add rating comments, are awarded points. Does Clorox post technical questions about the product? I don't think they post technical questions. I think they're just posting questions. So what do you think about this, and how would we do with that? I don't think they're posting formula. I don't think they're posting that kind of technical kind of questions. No. Is participation in the Clorox Connect popular and widely used? It's somewhat popular. It's not extensively used. I only know about it because of this article, for instance. What are the rewards that Clorox provided? Actually, I don't think there's any extrinsic rewards, i.e. money or gifts or trips or, I think they're intrinsic, which is you get a title, you get, intrinsic reward for participating, and that you get moved up the leaderboard, or that you considered a thought leader on their leaderboard. I don't think there's any extrinsic. In the Ford Fiesta example, where the companies carefully engage those who have a sizable influence in social networks, can reduce risks. Yes. With this, is there a larger opportunity for this information to go viral in good and bad ways? I think by getting the people with a very large social graph and getting them on your good side, you have a much better shot at good viral versus bad viral. It is a bit more controlled. Can you better explain the transformer strategy? Would CRM be considered a transformer strategy? Well, CRM can help facilitate a transformer strategy. It's not a transformer strategy. Basically, if we're looking at page 24, where we have the predictive practitioner, creative experimenter, social media champion, and social media transformer, I would like to think of it as a continuum, and you're moving from one direction to the other, with social media transformer being more like what I was talking about in this article. This article, I did not make any distinctions in this bottom-up world, this using the crowd world. The social media transformer is a full-blown, threadless was a social media transformer. Full-blown. Threadless could not be a predictive practitioner. Threadless is a complete transformer. They're all the way over there. They can't move without the crowd. The crowd makes too many major decisions for them. The EMC example claims internal social media generated $40 million in savings for the firm. How can this return be measured? Yeah, there are specific tools. Basically, the $40 million in savings were costs that they would have spent on something else. For instance, using their own internal social bottom-up kind of scenario, they found a much better way to create videos. Saved a ton of money. And their savings is, they believe, is this $40 million, where they got either they traded something, or they got a better vendor, or instead of using a top-down method, they used a bottom-up method, and there was a lot more savings in areas they would have spent money anyway. That's what we're talking about. Or is this just a matter of guessing based on certain perceived activity? No, I think the way the article is written is they would have spent this, but they didn't have to spend this because they used their social platforms in a bottom-up way and found cheaper options. Cisco's internal video streaming seems cool. How can companies that don't have similar investments in technology get involved in more social activities? Well, guess what? Cisco had the technology to build their own proprietary platform. You don't have to build your own proprietary platform. As a matter of fact, if I want to live stream to my 470 followers on Twitter right now, 2 weeks ago we got a new tool called Periscope. And guess what? Periscope is just like FaceTime or just like Skype. But instead of one person, I can video live with my entire social feed. Now, they can't talk back to me. They can only ask questions back. But it's still pretty neat, though. You know, there are many different social tools that are off-the-shelf platforms that are free for both the users and the firm to use. Another really good one, though, which is internal, is called Igloo. It's an internal intranet, and that's really, 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 really good, and it's also very affordable. Very affordable. In the social media champion strategy, a cost-effective way to reduce risk of a product is the social media championing strategy a cost-effective way to reduce the risk of a product flopping in the market? Both the social media champion and the social media transformer, you do tend to get, these either from a beta test kind of scenario or from an R&D testing the market first and letting them buy into an idea first. Like, would it have been better for Google to not do what they did with Glass and instead did a more bottom-up kind of a thing to get a more installed base with this product before they try to create a large market for it? The shorter answer is yes. I think you can reduce risk of a product flopping, or you certainly can reduce risk of not having the right product in the market at the right time. If you start talking about a product and the crowd does not react, then guess what? The crowd's not ready for the product. It allows you to test with a small subset. Yeah. Has this approach ever backfired on a company? I'm trying to think of an example, but what happens is you tend to have your more diehards, your more first-time innovative users in the community, and sometimes they're not a good representation of the entire customer population, where the zealots love it, but not everybody loves it, and then you get a product that sells okay, but it's not gangbusters. All right, 2 down, 2 to go. Social Strategies at Work is a cool article, but I don't think I'm ever going to be able to pull this article out of the packet because this guy's got one of the coolest names I've ever seen. Mktg. I mean, if you have a name like Mktg, how can you get pulled out of Dr. Dano's list, man? I mean, you could do initials, Mktg, what a cool name. It also tends to be a pretty cool article, too. With respect to Yelp, the article states, to maintain these social benefits, squad members must continue to post reviews to maintain their elite status. Is Yelp merely looking at quantity of reviews? They used to just look at quantity in the past, but now they look at both quantity and quality. The number of thumbs up, or actually, I think in Yelp's, it's the number of people that says the review was helpful, for instance. That is more of a symbol of quality or a signal of quality. They do care about quality. They absolutely do. And Yelp actually, they reserve the right to order the reviews. It's not a random order how the reviews are presented to you. I understand that a small business or restaurant who are the recipients of a Yelp review pay very close attention to the quality and truth associated with the reviews. You bet they do, because Yelp tends to be the best yellow pages ever invented. What's the difference between a brand community and a social community? A social community is more broad. For instance, we could have a social community about code, where we talk about Ruby on Rails, we talk about Cocoa, we talk about BB Edit, we talk about Apache, we talk about, code. A brand community is more narrow. You're talking about a particular one brand or a particular one thing. This could be just Ruby on Rails, where this would be all kinds of different programming languages. I think that's the easiest ways to, to distinguish between the two of these. Are strategies for building these communities different? Oh, yeah. This could be more for a particular company. This is probably not organized by a company. I would be surprised. This is common with a company. This is probably not so common with a company. Is it beneficial for companies to have strategies that are strictly social and not have it part of social or digital? Okay. This is a hard question, mainly because everything we do is digital. I don't think there is a difference between digital and social. And, back when this article was written, this was 2011, people were just starting to get the feel. And even in 2011, they were still calling it social media and not social. And media is just the media part of it and not the social strategy. But everything, whether it's social media or social strategy, are all digital options. So we need to talk about this one more. We're not strictly social or strictly digital. No, not exactly, no. In order to have a successful social strategy, how important are the factors of frequency of content? There's a fine line that exists between connecting consumers versus bombarding them. This goes back to our CRM discussions way back when, that we do not like to spam. We are not a one-way machine towards our particular customers. The best, if we could take one nugget away from this whole class, and anytime you think social, anytime you think digital, anytime you think community, I want you to say in your head, dialogue. You either have dialogue or you don't. If you don't have dialogue, whatever you're doing, stop. Because then the community's not engaging. If you have dialogue, guess what? They don't care how many times you post because there's a dialogue there. There's a back and forth going between consumers and the firm. If it's all one way, guess what? You will be bombarding them. Dialogue. Like that word. For an industry like sports, especially on the college level, where profitability isn't necessarily the main goal, what does an effective social media strategy look like? It's got dialogue. It's two-way. As simple as that. You decide what you want to do socially. It could be a revenue-generating thing. It could be more of a branding thing. It could be more of an R&D thing. You need a reason why to do social. And depending on what your reason of why is, that's how you can tell whether you have effectiveness or not. Did you achieve your goal, i.e., a better connection with my consumers, with social? If that's the goal, then you can judge effectiveness or not. But you need a goal to be able to judge effectiveness. To me, everything should be dialogue. If it's not dialogue, then you're not doing it right. Okay, let's wrap up the Masters on the last day of the Masters tournament, and we're mastering the intermediaries. I think a great way to talk about this article before we get into it at all is the idea of the power of a particular platform. And you could have platform lock-in. And the easiest example to talk about this is coffee. Because coffee tends to have platform lock-in. For instance, how many of you have a K-Cup machine at house or at work? You're all raising your hands. The K-Cup machine is a platform. And, believe it or not, because it's a platform and because those things are so popular, you know that Campbell Soup is going to have new product offerings with little K-Cups. All you do is put water into it. Hot water comes through. It goes through the little thing. Think of like a ramen kind of cup here. And then the flavor goes through, and 30 seconds later, you got Campbell's soup. Right? Do a Google search on that. It either came out this spring or it's coming out this summer, but it's coming out. All right, let's answer some questions. In the Kayak American Airlines example that was in, Kayak was forced to include American Airlines flight information on the major markets, such as New York, LA, London, or in all the markets. I believe it was in the top markets, the more frequently flyered ones, the ones where American Airlines had a lot of market share. That's where American Airlines got the leverage to make Kayak do what they're supposed to do. In other words, did Kayak have the upper hand over American, or the smaller flights, or because major markets American had? American had the upper hand, and it's because American dominated the major legs. New York, LA, New York, London, you know. And what American did was they made Kayak link directly to AA.com as opposed to Kayak linking to Orbitz or Expedia, which then American would have to pay Orbitz or an Expedia for a flight, like a commission. They would have to pay a commission because Orbitz sold the ticket, as opposed to Kayak referring them to American, and then American, they're already buying directly from American. They saved a lot of money. Google is a publicly traded company and can provide services in comparisons to a competitor, such as Yelp. Why should they provide Yelp sites prominently in a Google search as opposed to Google's own service? Well, we saw the example and the legal issues in the article. They were spelled out. Google was discriminating against Yelp in the organic search results. Well, Google's algorithm shouldn't discriminate, to the point where we saw in the case that they were on Capitol Hill, and as soon as they got Capitol Hill and all this information got out, Google changed its tune. Understanding that companies who start their own platforms would have a difficult time going up against Google or other major platforms, do these companies use these major platforms to ensure that consumers know about their own platforms? Sure. The major platforms, particularly Google, if you're not ranking well in Google, it's like that tree falling in a forest. Does it make a sound or not? It actually makes a sound, but there's no one there to hear it, so it really doesn't make a sound. If you're not showing up on Google, then you don't exist. So you use the larger platform to get people, drawing into your own platform. That's what I would do. Does Google have to provide ComScore data with data on its searches? Google doesn't, to the best of my knowledge. ComScore monitors what's going on. Google doesn't provide it. ComScore creates it. And I don't think it's searches. I don't think it's on searches. Since it owns the algorithm, do you think it gave in too easily when it faced pressure from Yelp? No, it didn't give in too easily. Because what's going to happen to Google at some point is what happened to Microsoft at some point, that the market share numbers were too high. And Microsoft had to be broken up. That had a profound effect on the trajectory of Microsoft. And Google is close to an oligopoly. They want to make sure government stays out of their business. Can platforms be good for business? Hell yeah. Look at those K-Cups. Etsy is a fantastic platform. Very, very good for business. How can a business identify and prevent such discrimination, such as Yelp, Google issues? It's pretty obvious. You document the searches. You document. Not only that, you find out if your competitors are also seeing the same kind of a thing. Are there any regulations being considered to remedy unfair discrimination or advantages in the markets? Not that I'm aware of, to be honest with you. I tell you, for all the rapid growth that's happening in digital, that rapid growth is not happening on the legal side of the equation. We do not see lots of new legal anything happening. This article teaches us how to reduce the dependence on a social platform, but we learned a lot about the advantages of social media. How can we use a social platform properly? Well, this is the question of the semester. If you're talking about a platform, if you're talking about a particular social network, this question's almost so broad, I don't know how to really tackle it. How do we use Twitter properly? How do we use Facebook properly? How do we use a blogging platform like WordPress properly? A little too broad here. If I could say one word, I'll go back to dialogue. If you have a community and you have dialogue, you're doing something right. What is the most common reason to why companies utilize intermediaries? Because the intermediaries has something that you do not have. They have knowledge, they have customer base, they have cheaper ways or faster ways to reach somebody. That is why. Sometimes intermediators are unavoidable because the only way to get your product or your service in front of a particular customer group is to use that intermediary. Search engines are still the dominant source for customer views and product search, pretty much. Do you think social media like Twitter, Facebook will surpass Google as the first stop for consumers looking for products or service information? Well, we know without question that Facebook, and Facebook being a walled garden, Facebook has certainly impacted Google in a major, major, major way. I think more than social, I think apps, surpass Google or are a bigger threat to Google. Where in 2008, if we had a question, we always went to Google first. By 2014, if we had a question and we're on a mobile device, think about it. Do you go to Google first? Do you open a Wikipedia app? Do you open a Yelp app? Do you open a weather app? Do you open a sports app? You don't Google what the score is. You go to ESPN, the app. I think that's a bigger threat. Twitter is not great for search. Twitter search needs to be better. That is one of their major Achilles heels. I wish they would fix it. Facebook is very, very good, though, with regards to taking searches away from Google. The difference is that Google is very much faster. Facebook, if you ask your friends something, guess what? It may take a little while for them to get back, for you to make a decision. You're going to do a search on Google and have an answer in 60 seconds or less. Very good class. Interesting set of articles. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your money. I look forward... Money. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. I look forward to this week's articles.